Before we talk about gold and silver, we need to talk about the dollar reset. An important reminder, the dollar isn't backed by anything. It's not backed by gold, it's not backed by silver, it's not backed by anything you can hold. It's just a piece of paper or a digit on a screen. It used to be backed by something, but not anymore. So today, a dollar is worth something purely because everyone agrees it is, and because the government says so. It's a shared belief, and that's the whole thing. It sounds abstract, but it's the most important part of this entire video. Because if money is only worth what people believe it's worth, then whoever controls the supply of it can quietly chip away at that value whenever they fancy it, and you barely feel it happening because it's happening 1 year at a time over a long period. So first, let's talk about how big this hole is really. And the honest way to measure a country's debt is against the size of its economy. Think of it like a mortgage. $200,000 of debt is terrifying if you earn $20,000 a year, and it's nothing if you earn $2 million a year. So we compare the debt a country has to everything the country produces in a year. That's called the debt-to-GDP ratio. So right now, the US sits at about 122% debt-to-GDP ratio. The debt is bigger than the entire economy. And the last time it was that high was 1946, right after America had finished fighting World War II. But then it made sense because they borrowed a fortune to win an actual world war. This time around, they borrowed for what? I don't even know, because they shouldn't have borrowed that much. And the debt isn't even the scariest part of this all. It's the interest on the debt. The government now pays more every year just to service this debt than it spends on its entire military, over $1 trillion. The fastest growing thing in the budget isn't roads or defense or healthcare. It's paying off the interest on the debt. Paying off interest on money that they borrowed and blew. Actually, here's something that blows everyone's mind when I talk about it. China is a massive holder of US debt, although they've been decreasing their holdings of US debt over the last decade. Now, when the US pays interest on its debt, some of that interest has to go to China because they hold the debt. Think about what that means. China lends money to the US pays them interest, which then China uses for things like funding its military, which one day might have to fight the US military. So they're kind of funding their rival. It's a crazy world, this whole debt system. Anyway, US debt is so high that it is now impossible for the US to pay it back. Well, almost impossible. How do you make $39 trillion of debt shrink without paying it back and without telling anyone you're doing it? This is the trick at the center of everything. So let me explain this slowly. I'm going to slow down a little bit. It's called financial repression. When you lend money to the government, you buy something called a US Treasury or a Treasury bill or a bond, and they pay you interest. Let's say they pay you 4% interest, but that 4% on its own means nothing. What matters is the 4% compared to inflation. If prices are rising at, let's say, 3% a year, then you earn 1% because you earn 4%, then the inflation is 3%, 4 minus 3 is 1%. If prices are rising at, say, 6% per year, then you're actually losing 2% per year because 6 minus 4 is 2, right? So even though the number in your account is going up, you're earning money in your account, that money is purchasing less. Now, if the government can hold interest rates below inflation, then everyone lending the money loses a little bit of value every single year. And here's the flip side of that. While you slowly lose value, the government debt is shrinking in real terms, year after year, without a single dollar ever being paid back. They inflate away the debt by printing loads of money. The savers, the pension funds, regular people holding bonds, they eat the loss and never get told what's happened. And by eat the loss, I mean that their dollar every year purchases less. I'm sure you've noticed this when you go to the supermarket to do your shopping or you pay your bills. Shit's gotten very, very expensive, right? I mean, it's happening all over the world. I'm sure you've noticed. And that's the trick. It's actually called negative real rates. It's a hidden tax. You never voted for it. It doesn't show up on your pay slip, but it's a hidden tax you're paying. Anyway, guys, if you want my full take on this, make sure to click on the video that's popping up on your screen somewhere here. I made a full video about this subject, so just give it a watch and tell me what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.